chances are tomato prices will come down below 100 rupees per kg in the days to come, following a 30% fall in the wholesale price of tomatoes in Maharashtra. If true, it would be a relief for many, given that its price had recently hit 300 rupees a kg. But the common man may not be able to breathe a sign of relief yet. Reports suggest that the price of quality onions could nearly double to 60 rupees per kg by September. Regardless of how vegetable prices play out, the effects of high food prices are already being felt. A recent note by Crystal Market Intelligence and Analytics said that the urban poor were most impacted by the high consumer price inflation in July. The poorer segment in rural areas also faced a higher inflation burden than its high-income counterpart. Spurred by an increase in food prices, the retail inflation rate shot through the upper bound of the RBI's tolerance limit in July to a 15-month high of 7.44%. This big jump from 4.87% in June was revealed by National Statistical Office data released on August 14th. As a result, analysts have projected the overshooting of the central bank's inflation forecast for the September quarter and the possibility of a sustained rate freeze in the coming months. Meanwhile, food inflation rose sharply to 11.51% in July from 4.49% in the previous month, as prices of vegetables, cereals, pulses, spices, sugar, and fruits went up. The inflation surprise came days after the RBI kept the repo rate unchanged at 6.5% and maintained the withdrawal of accommodation stance, thus ignoring the expected spike in July retail inflation. The MPC was of the view that prices would come down soon and should be ignored even if the inflation projection for the second and third quarters was sharply increased. The average inflation forecast for FY24 was also revised to 5.4% compared to 5.1% projected during the June policy. Furthermore, the MPC increased its July-September quarter retail inflation forecast by 100 basis points to 6.2%. The centre has already implemented measures to alleviate the increase in vegetable and cereal prices. Some of them have also started showing results, such as the decrease in retail tomato prices in recent weeks. But while government officials have told Business Standard that more stringent measures are in the pipeline, a significant variable in this question is the monsoon. At present, the rains are on an extended break. August shower could reportedly be among the most deficient ever recorded. There could be added pressure on prices if the monsoon season does not witness a substantial revival. Against this backdrop, Aditi Nair of ICRA Ratings believes the RBI should not pivot to a rate hike just yet.
So the short answer is no. We've had one very unpalatable CPI inflation print. A large part of that has been led by the vegetable price shock, which is going to be transient in nature. We've seen this happening many times with vegetable prices where they spike up because of a short-term supply-demand issue, but then they really crash back down to rock bottom levels as well once the next harvest comes in. So my expectation is that before the next MPC meeting, at least the tomato price shock will have resolved itself, and there'll be a lot more information that the MPC has to go on in terms of the trajectory of inflation going forward. We do think that the CPI inflation print for Q3 and Q4 will be closer to what the MPC had anyway projected before the CPI inflation print for July was released. And therefore, I don't think that we need to rush into another rate hike right now.
So actually, we should go on the basis of the commentary of the RBI and the credit policy, as well as the forecast of inflation, which was made for the second quarter, which is 6.2%. Now, one can assume that the RBI will be satisfied in case inflation remains in the 6.2% range, which means that even though inflation in the month of August is going to be high, something which the RBI has admitted during the policy time also, there would be a case of holding on to interest rates. Now, pivot is something which will happen only in case these numbers go terribly wrong. And that's one thing which RBI has also mentioned during the policy time, is that one can never really predict what happens on the food side, because supply side shocks are not something which anybody can predict. So in case something does go wrong terribly, at that point of time, we can be thinking of a pivot. Otherwise, I don't think the RBI is going to change the direction of interest rates. We'll remain with the status quo for a prolonged period of time, as it is believed that by September, October, things should cool down and inflation numbers should be at more acceptable rates. So everything will be data-based, data-dependent. I think that's the way we should be interpreting possible future moves of the RBI.
In the context of retail inflation hitting a 15-month high in July, RBI's recently released State of the Economy report said that the vulnerability of the economy to recurring incidents of vegetable price shocks, especially ahead of and during the monsoon, warranted major reforms in perishable supply chains.
Monetary policy is going to have very limited impact, if any at all, on food price shocks which are coming out of poor harvests. So this is something that is going to benefit longer term in anchoring of inflationary expectations and bringing the longer term inflation trajectory closer to the 4% target. If we are able to bring in supply side reforms to manage the agricultural supply chains, especially for those items where we regularly get into price spikes like this.
Experts believe that the RBI should not and will not pivot to a rate hike yet because vegetable price shock is transient in nature. They believe that in the long run, supply-side reforms by the government will be a better solution to the food price shocks seen during the monsoon.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
I am the blue of the limitless sky. I am the inspiration that led success soar high. I will achieve, I will fly high. I am the I in SBI.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.